Welcome back into Foolish Club Media. I am Steven Serda. It's a Foolish Club post-game show with myself and Rocky Magaña. Coming your way on Monday night as the Kansas City Chiefs take down the New Orleans Saints 26-13 to improve to 5-0 on the season. It's down to the Minnesota Vikings and the Kansas City Chiefs, Rocky. Last two undefeated teams in the NFL, as the Chiefs head into a bye week before they begin preparations for a huge matchup against the San Francisco 49ers. Rocky, I think it goes without saying, this was easily the most fun Chiefs game of the entire season so far.
By far the funnest and most enjoyable game of the entire Chiefs season so far. There was a hot second there where you thought that the Chiefs were going to dominate today and then literally walk out with another close victory. But they locked it down in the second half, and Juju Smith-Schuster found the fountain of youth. Kareem Hunt looked like he's a bit of a workhorse out there today. Really moved the pile and just kept on getting positive yards. I thought it was awesome. There's a lot to hit on in this game. A lot of good stuff going down. Elliot, I see in the comments, thank you very much. Me and my family are doing our best to stay safe with Milton bearing down on Florida. But I mean, all that being said, this was by far the greatest game, the best game this year so far, right? I mean, like this was the most complete team win. It felt like the Chiefs just beat down the Saints from beginning to end.
Yes, without a doubt. And yeah, if you're checking us out on YouTube or on Twitter, please make sure you subscribe to Foolish Club Media and follow us at Club Foolish. Also, shout out Rocky because, what they got going on right now and headed their way in Florida is very concerning. But Rocky's still grinding it out to be here for you guys tonight. So send some love his way. We hope Milton is not nearly as devastating as they're making it out to be. But as always, Rocky, appreciate you, man, and stay safe. I know you'll keep your family safe, and hopefully it's just not as bad as they're making it out to be. But we are here to talk Chiefs football. And you're right, Rocky. There's a lot to get into from this game. And I guess I kind of want to talk about the game, but I feel like we have to start off with this to emphasize just how impressive this performance was from the Chiefs, because it was easily the most functional their offense has looked all season. And, that's not to say that like everything in the offense wasn't working really, except for going to Rashee Rice. And then Rashee Rice has the catastrophic injury. Patrick Mahomes accidentally takes out his knee last week. And then it's reported just before kickoff tonight, or really like an hour and a half before kickoff, that Rashee Rice likely done for the season. He's expected to have a procedure tomorrow to take a look at his LCL and make sure there's no other damage to any other ligaments in his knee. But the typical recovery for a surgery like that is going to be 3 months. So as of right now, and barring any other type of confirmed report from tomorrow's procedure, it's pretty much expected that the Chiefs are not going to have Rashee Rice for the rest of the 2024 season. I don't know if there's still going to be a chance of some kind of postseason return, like maybe there is with Hollywood Brown. We'll find that out hopefully in the coming days. But as of right now, the Chiefs have to move forward, assuming that Rashee Rice is not going to be a part of this team for the near future.
Yeah, the Chiefs have to act like they're not going to have him back. And then if by some, athletes are so funky because their bodies don't heal like normal human beings' bodies heal, right? And so there's every now and again you'll see a guy who comes out ahead of schedule. Now you can't bank on that by any means, right? So will the Chiefs have him in the postseason? Can't plan on it. If they do, is he going to be rusty? Is he going to be in football shape? Like, I mean, there's just so many factors to go into it. You gotta move forward expecting that he is done for the season. And then if by some miracle he's available, then it's just gravy. You know what I mean? That being said, looks like Andy Reid was like, listen, we got Juju Smith-Schuster, which is a very poor man's Rashee Rice. It's like if Rashee Rice was Amon-Ra St. Brown, then Juju Smith-Schuster is Equanimeous St. Brown, right? And so he's like, well, we'll make it work. And they made it work today. And I mean, this might, if Rashee Rice getting injured might get Juju Smith-Schuster another contract in this league. I mean, to be honest, because he's going to put up some numbers. and get some targets his way. You know, as long as he doesn't drop any more, passes in the end zone that turn into Colin Saunders interception returns, where he looks like Jerome Bettis running down the field like the bus, just trucking people. Like I thought there for a second for sure that Saunders was going to take that interception to the house, and I was going to be mad, but also kind of happy because I love Colin Saunders. Former Chiefs defensive tackle Colin Saunders, who intercepted a tipped ball by Juju Smith-Schuster in the end zone. But
And
yeah, go ahead.
that was really the one like boneheaded play of the night. And this one wasn't Patrick Mahomes' fault, because we've seen him over the first few weeks of the season just have terrible interceptions where it's like, what were you seeing? What were you even thinking when you decided to make that throw? And this one, it's a tight window throw. Juju's got a defender draped all over him, and the ball just pops up in the air. And I couldn't even be mad about it, because it was thrilling to see Colin Sanders bring that thing out of the end zone and just truck some guys and look a lot faster than he has any right to be at that size. But that's something we already knew about him as a player. And I think Chiefs fans still have very fond memories of him. And, during his time here in Kansas City, I think he was one of those guys who had his moments, but was never like hugely impactful, but was a good player for the Chiefs and had his moments and was absolutely loved in the locker room. So that was a very cool thing to see.
The only sack in the Super Bowl against the Eagles in the entire game, right? That was Colin Saunders. He chased Jalen Hurts and pushed him out of bounds. I believe he had the only sack in that game. So, Super Bowl hero Colin Saunders. Also, I will never forget in his pre-draft video, him doing a backflip. A man who's 6 foot tall, 320 pounds, doing a backflip, flat-footed, has no business doing that. Or him slam dunking basketballs. He's just an athletic freak.
Yeah.
At his size. But getting back to the Chiefs really quick, this was going to always go. The Chiefs were always going to match up well against the Saints defense because of how beat up they are at linebacker. Right, Demario Davis just now coming off of injury. Willie Gay is out. They have undrafted rookie free agent. I don't even know his first name. Orgy. He's an undrafted rookie free agent. Starting at linebacker for them right now. There was always going to be opportunities for Juju Smith-Schuster to do that wide shallow cross across the middle, and for Travis Kelce to eat. The Saints have given up 360 plus yard plays so far this year. 2 of them were running. One of them was a running play by Saquon Barkley. The other 2 were short passes to the outside. They got broken for big plays. And I think you saw the Chiefs also utilize Xavier Worthy's speed on the perimeter too today. And they saw, obviously they had a touchdown on that running play, which is kind of more of an off tackle, but you saw them do a couple sweeps, some wide receiver screens. I think that you saw some success out on short passes on the boundary today as well. And the Chiefs just had a really good game plan. And surprisingly enough, our beat up offense matched up really well against their beat up defense.
Yeah. And the Saints are dealing with a lot of injuries right now, but overall, like, their secondary is still talented, has some playmakers, and overall their defense hasn't been bad. But you're right, and pointing out the injuries that they're facing, like, as an overall team, their offensive line is really banged up right now. But this is the kind of win that I think this team really needed going into the bye after all of the injuries that have stacked up. I mean, Hollywood Brown gets injured before the season even starts. Isaiah Pacheco goes down, then Rashee Rice, and your question marks at left tackle. And for the most part, they've managed to overcome all of that and be the championship caliber team that we know they are. And we know that when things actually click, they're still one of the absolute most talented teams in all of the NFL. And I think this was a really, really big game for them. And I think it's also lucky that, for the first time in several years, they have this early season bye. And so not only did we get a good version of Andy Reid tonight with this Chiefs offense, kind of having to adjust and say, like, we can't just pepper Rashee Rice with targets anymore. We got to get other guys involved and find a way to make this thing work. I think we got the best Andy Reid that we have seen so far this season tonight. And I think some of that was, maybe this was like a late season game plan they'd rather not deploy in week 5 of the NFL season, but they did what they had to do because times are rough right now. And they do that. Andy Reid looks good. And now you can head into a bye week. Maybe the Chiefs are going to go make a move at wide receiver and try to make a splash once they get confirmation on this Rashee Rice thing. We'll figure all that out, and you'll have to stay locked into Foolish Club Media because we'll have all the info on the Chiefs as that stuff comes out here. But I think this is just a massive performance for this offense. I mean, against a decent Saints defense, like 460 yards of offense, 28 first downs tonight. Like, I just absolutely was not expecting this kind of performance from them, even though, the red zone issues continue, and we can get into that here in a little bit. But the biggest thing tonight, I think, Rocky, is that, and maybe this is a bye week thing, and maybe we're going to see them kind of slow things down as they work other guys in the offense as they move forward into the season without some of their star players on the offensive side of the ball. But from the get-go, we know we got a matchup problem with Travis Kelce, and Travis Kelce is going to eat tonight. And that was something we just had not seen in the first few weeks of the season. And it was something that the offense desperately needed, because they don't need to be the super explosive, high-flying offense anymore. But Travis Kelce finishes the night, 9 receptions for 70 yards, and looks as good as he's looked all season. Almost had a touchdown that he gets stopped short by Colin Saunders, and then the next play is the interception from Juju to Colin Saunders. So kind of a crazy sequence there. But overall, Travis Kelce was excellent tonight, and I think that moving forward, I know he's up there in age, and they got to manage his snaps and everything and try to make sure he's healthy for the postseason. But barring a significant move at wide receiver before the trade deadline, I think this is the Chiefs offense that we can expect moving forward. And this offense can work, Rocky. We've seen them get it done with less. They did it last season. But this version of this offense can work. It's just not going to be like the top 3 offense that we thought they were going to be coming into the season.
No, it won't be. But the difference between this offense and last season's offense, obviously switching out Juju for Rashee Rice, which is a minor downgrade, is that switching out MVS for Xavier Worthy is a huge upgrade. I think you saw today where with Xavier Worthy, you don't have to connect on the deep shots in order for them to impact the game, right? Like he was like there should have been 2, PI calls, the big chunk PI calls downfield. The Chiefs got one of them, but it set them up in the red zone. And so I think moving forward, you're going to see that a lot more. Especially if they're going to be dink and dunking, and defenses are going to start playing closer to the line of scrimmage to try to take away Travis Kelce. So they think that the Chiefs are going to feed Travis Kelce, then that's going to leave a lot of one-on-one. Travis Kelce was a rugby player, right? Like he hung out with Louis Rees-Zammit in the offseason. He's always been a lateral guy, but like he's done it so often now that it just seems like second nature to him at this point. And it's such a heads up play. I don't think there's another team in the NFL where the head coach trusts a guy like Travis Kelce to just have the freedom to make that play as often as he does. I think there's enough teams out there where if they tried that, the coach would be like, don't ever do that again. But good job, where Andy Reid is like, he does it every day in practice. And I stopped trying to stop Travis Kelce from doing Travis Kelce things a long time ago. Like Travis Kelce is that wild horse that refuses to be broken, but that does really great things. And so you just kind of just let him cook and do him.
Yeah. And I would make the case that his best attribute as a football player is his field vision. Like, how do you think he's open all the time? It's because he's out there just freelancing routes and finding open space. And Patrick Mahomes knows if the routes aren't working and the matchups aren't working, just go find Kelce, and Kelce's always open. And that's why. And that's why I think he's always got an eye on the pitch, and you always got to worry about something like that with him because his field vision is just absolutely insane. Like it's unlike almost any other player that I've ever seen in the NFL.
Well, yeah, and I think that the key is also that Mahomes has a lot of that in him too, right? The strength of the Chiefs offense and with Travis Kelce and Mahomes' connection is that they're both great freestylers, right? It's like you got 2 guys. It's like Jordan and Pippen with a little bit of and one mixtape thrown in too, right? And it works so well for the Chiefs because it's so hard to defend because you don't know when they're going to do something crazy like throw the ball behind their back or lateral the ball across field or, just not run the route that's on paper whatsoever because they see something different. And so we've seen it so often with these guys, it shouldn't surprise us. But I think that every now and again you get a cool play like tonight where you see it and you're like, okay, I've seen that before. But every time I see that, it's dope as hell. Every time I see that, I see Travis Kelce lateral the ball and then somebody catch it and just keep running like a makeshift hook and ladder. It's my favorite play in football. I think it's just so exciting and fun to watch.
Yeah, Travis Kelce was tremendous on Monday night as the Kansas City Chiefs take down the New Orleans Saints 26-13, improved to 5-0 on the season. And Jason Kelce was in the building, Taylor Swift was in the building, and it's a home game, and Travis Kelce's the focal point of the offense again. Everything feels great. And we'll get into Juju and how big he was on Monday Night Football, but then Kareem Hunt comes back again. And this week, it's not just, hey, Carson Steele fumbled early in the game, so Kareem, we need you to take a lot of touches because we're mad at Carson Steele. It's, no, Kareem Hunt is the lead back of this backfield without question now, and the Chiefs clearly trust him and still think that while he might not be the same explosive player he was when he left the Chiefs a few years ago, he's still a talented player. He still has good vision as a runner. He's still really tough to tackle. He's still good in the passing game. Like, he brings elements to the Chiefs offense really that they haven't had since he left. Like, and just a legitimate all around every down type of running back. And we were always kind of hoping that Isaiah Pacheco would get to that level. But I still think even prior to his injury, we saw them leaning on him more on the ground, but he still lacked the pass game usage and the trust there sometimes. But Kareem Hunt has all of that. And I don't know if Kareem Hunt at this age, he's 29 years old, can keep that up for the entirety of a regular season. But it sure as hell feels like they got something in him. Maybe he's, feeling rejuvenated in his career, getting the second opportunity in Kansas City. And maybe he keeps us up for the entire regular season. He totally blows us away. But as of right now, the Chiefs got a steal when they signed Kareem Hunt back to the roster because he was their lead back on Monday Night Football, and he was great. Like, 27 carries, 102 yards on touchdown, only averages 3.8. But I think a lot of that, too, was like in the first half, he was ripping off some nice chunk gains. And then in the second half, it was more just, we're going to run clock. We're just running the football. We're on the football. We're not even trying to disguise what we're doing, really. Like, we're just kind of grinding this thing out. And so I'm not too worried about his yards per carry. Like, overall, I was really impressed with Kareem Hunt for the second consecutive week. And it feels like he's only going to get better as the season goes on. And now they're headed into a bye. And we know what Andy Reid does with those bye weeks, game planning wise, for the rest of the season. Kareem Hunt's going to be a huge part of this offense moving forward.
Well, yeah, and I think the difference between Kareem Hunt and everybody else we've had on the, especially Isaiah Pacheco, but also Carson Steele to an extent, is that how often do we see Isaiah Pacheco just leaving footprints on his offensive linemen's the back of their jerseys, just running straight into their backs because he doesn't have the same patience or vision that a veteran or a guy like Kareem Hunt has. Kareem Hunt is a much more patient runner. Like Isaiah Pacheco's strength of just being that he is balls to the wall, 100 miles an hour, and just going as hard as he can 24/7 is his superpower and also his weakness, right? Whereas Kareem Hunt is a much more patient runner. He has a lot better vision. He reads his blockers so much better. He gets small in the hole. Him, like especially on short yardage plays on that fourth down run where he picked it up, where he gets to the line of scrimmage and then he knows just the right second to take almost like a jump step and then just throw everything he has forward just to get that little bit. He knows where the line of gain is. He has great awareness. And I do think that there is, I'm a little bit of a homer, and this is probably the old guy in me, but I think that there's a little bit of making right on a second chance with him, like you mentioned. And I don't know if Kareem Hunt gets picked up by another team, that he won't get the same opportunity that he's getting with the Chiefs right now due to Isaiah Pacheco's injury, or B, if he's as motivated to make good on that. Now, can he keep it up over the course of an entire year? I don't know, but the Chiefs are everything that the Chiefs get out of Kareem Hunt at this point is all profit, right? Like, it's such a low investment to bring him in, and if you get 6 games out of Kareem Hunt and he gets injured, which knock on wood, I hope he doesn't, because I'm loving what I'm seeing out of him right now. that's still, you still hit a home run when you brought him in at that point. And I think just hitting on the running game a little bit more, I think we saw, I was really happy for Carson Steele today. I think you saw him earn some trust back as the game went on from Andy, right? Like Andy gave him
He was
a
bear
run or
hugging
two.
that football.
Yeah.
He was hugging that football like his life depended on it.
Andy gave him a run or two to kind of see where he was at. And when they tried to strip the ball out and he didn't put it on the ground on that very first run, I think after that, Andy was like, okay, I can start peppering the kid in a little bit. He's kind of learned his lesson. And then when Sky Moore went out there and muffed a kickoff and didn't do anything with it, he was like, okay, I'm going to put Carson Steele back on kickoffs also. And
I didn't love that. I didn't love that. Made me nervous. I was like, okay, I don't know how I feel about this.
Well, what's that say about Sky Moore that Andy Reid trusts Carson Steele more on kickoffs, given what's happened with him this season so far, than Sky Moore? Right. That's the concerning thing, is that at this point you have to think that the Chiefs coaching staff just has, you don't like, the Chiefs offense is decimated at wide receiver, and Sky Moore is not a part of the game plan at all.
I think it tells you that the Chiefs know they probably should have cut Sky Moore, and he never should have made the 53-man roster, but they didn't want to give up on a second-round pick, I guess.
Especially with reports that Nico Remigio was taking first-team reps this week in practice. And so, I mean, there could be a move coming this next week or so.
But you're totally right with this is just all profit for the Kansas City Chiefs right now. Like what they have gotten out of Kareem Hunt so far, and it's only a 2-game sample size, but he just looks more stable than like any running back that they've had in a while. And you're totally right. Like I love that Isaiah Pacheco is all gas, and I love that when he finds the crease and gets into open space, he can take off and he can rip off those long runs. But the problem that Isaiah Pacheco has always struggled with is exactly what you're talking about, the vision. And just way too often you see him run headfirst into his own offensive lineman or something like that. And Kareem Hunt has always been that way. He's always been a good pass protector. He's always been a good receiver. He's always had the good vision and the patience. And then the last few years in Cleveland, it looked like he was just really slowing down. Now we found out that he had some injuries that were stacking up that maybe were affecting that. But moving forward, I'm not expecting Kareem Hunt to be able to take 25 touches a game for the Chiefs offense. But if you're going to get Isaiah Pacheco back at some point, if Kareem Hunt continues to play like this, like you're going to have 2 running backs that you can lean on down the stretch. And we saw how important Isaiah Pacheco was in the playoffs last year for the Chiefs. So it's like, so maybe coming out of the bye, I think Kareem Hunt's going to be worked in the offense even more. And maybe it is kind of a, hey, just run Kareem Hunt until the wheels fall off. And then we get Isaiah Pacheco back, and then we'll let him be the lead back come postseason time. But we'll have Kareem Hunt in there in the mix. And then we don't really got to worry about Samaje Perine and Carson Steele anymore. Like, I'm totally on board with that, because this was the most functional the Chiefs offense has looked all season. And this is fine. Like, this is perfectly fine. I want to get in the defense here in a little bit too, because they had a couple of issues tonight, but overall, still great performance from the Chiefs defense. Like, really not trying to gripe about a 5-0 football team. And I see you guys in the comment section. We'll get to some of your comments and observations here in a little bit. But overall, I think you have to be thrilled with this Chiefs performance, because this version of their offense is more than good enough to get the job done, with the defense playing as well as it is. Now, I'm a little bit more worried, Rocky, about getting this kind of consistency out of Juju Smith-Schuster than I am Kareem Hunt. And I know it like logically, it seems like, well, Kareem Hunt's a running back. He's an older running back at that. He's 29 years old. He's got a lot of carries in the NFL, and Juju Smith-Schuster is still a younger player than Kareem Hunt even. But Juju at this point, during his time in New England, we basically heard for the last year and a half that his knees were dust and he could not move anymore and he couldn't get on the field. And the Patriots have one of the worst wide receiver cores in the NFL, Rocky, and they still moved on from Juju. And then we brought it up on the Daily Fix a couple of weeks ago when Juju had a touchdown that should have gone to Rashee Rice, but Rashee Rice left the game for a play, and Juju comes in, gets the score. I was like, man, Juju looked like he had a little juice on that play. And then tonight, Juju Smith-Schuster goes absolutely insane, basically filling the Rashee Rice void for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, He finishes the game with 7 receptions, 130 yards, including a 50-yard catch and run. Like, this is the Juju that they had a couple of years ago in 2021, Rocky. Like, did Juju all of a sudden find the fountain of youth too? Can they rely on this Juju moving forward? I don't know if that's possible, but it really is like the Chiefs are just the modern day Patriots now, where it's like, if you know Andy Reid's system, you can come in even after you've left and gone somewhere else and totally fallen on your face. As long as you know Andy's system, you'll always have a place here, and Andy will find a way to make you produce.
I think that's 100% what it is. I don't think Juju Smith-Schuster has found a fountain of youth, because if you watch him, he looked great tonight, but he's not the same player he was early in his career. He's still a 50-year-old, 27-year-old out there on the field. But I think that you hit it on the nail on the head with Andy. Nobody knows his players' abilities and limitations better than Andy Reid, and how to maximize what they have to offer. Right. And I don't think that Juju Smith-Schuster is as bad as New England made him out to be. Shocking that the Patriots, who have been one of the worst teams in the last few years, sucked at talent evaluation and getting the best out of their players. Holy crap. Like shocking. The guys who drafted, well, what's his face from Alabama, Mr. Potbelly, cigar smoker, in the first round at quarterback, who's now third string. Yeah, he now can't even get on the field. So they drafted Mac Jones in the first round. Thank you. It's late. I had a bit of a brain fart there for a second. But yeah, I mean, I don't trust anything that comes out of New England's organization as far as talent evaluation. But I also think that Andy Reid is a master of getting the most out of his players. And so I'm happy for Juju. I think that there's a role here for Juju. I think that Juju, at this point, I mean, he prior to Rashee Rice going down, and even Hollywood Brown going down, Juju Smith-Schuster was an upgrade over the back end of the rest of this wide receiving core that we had last year. Like, he's an upgrade over Justin Watson. He's definitely an upgrade over Sky Moore and McCole Hardman, and was an upgrade over Kadarius Toney, and Richie James from last year. Like Juju Smith-Schuster at this stage in his career is a completely different grade of player above those other guys. He's not Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown, but he's not the other guys that we had last year that we had to rely on.
And I talked about it last week. It's like, because on Joe and BK, me and Brandon Kiley talked about how, yeah, you want to see more out of Worthy. You want to see him step up, but the replacement for Rashee Rice is going to be Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, that's Xavier Worthy just simply isn't built to take over the middle of the field routes the way that Rashee Rice was, the way that Juju Smith-Schuster does. Like, he is too small. He will get decimated out there if you send him on crossers the way that you do Rashee Rice. And Juju is built for that. He's always been a bigger bodied wide receiver. I do think some of it is just the system, but I think that the trust there that he has with Patrick Mahomes is going to come up huge, because what did we talk about all last season, Rocky? Like, there was no trust with any wide receiver outside of Travis Kelce until like week 12, when he started trusting Rashee Rice. Like, there was absolutely no trust that guy was going to be in the right spot at the right time. And even if he was in the right spot, is he going to be on the same page with Patrick Mahomes? Because we've seen that happen over and over again, where Mahomes thinks you're going to be in a different spot, or Mahomes thinks like, oh, you see the matchup and you have an option to go this way or that way. And Mahomes tries to read it ahead of time, but you don't see the same thing that he does, and you go the wrong way. It's a bad throw, bad incompletion, or interception, or something like that. Like, we see that happen way too often with this offense. And like, not even close, without question. And I do think some of that is, maybe it is the Rashee Rice injury. Maybe it's the injuries piling up, and Mahomes saying like, I simply have to play better. Like, I have to be better, because we saw him make really uncharacteristic decisions over the first 4 weeks of the season. We saw him game after game make bad interceptions, bad decisions, and just really be off the mark, like throwing behind guys, missing guys downfield, just not really syncing up, and not finding the ways to get this offense rolling. And tonight he goes 28 of 39, 331 yards. He does have the one annoying interception. But other than that, Rocky, this was the most dialed in Patrick Mahomes has been all night long or all season long. And if he doesn't have that interception, like this looks like a perfect game for Patrick Mahomes to get back in the win column and to look like, okay, maybe Mahomes is refocused now after the Rice injury, like knowing that they've got to depend on him more on a weekly basis. He doesn't have the easy button in Rashee Rice anymore. And so he's got to go out there and play like he's the best football player in the world. And tonight, I think we finally got a glimpse of that, because of the first 4 weeks of the season, he was not playing like the best player in the world that we all know he is.
He was seeing the field really, really well tonight. I felt like, with the exception, he missed Xavier Worthy when he was wide open on a big play one time. But I mean, you're not ever going to, that's going to happen in football, especially because he was scrambling to the other side of the field when it happened. He was seeing the field really well today. If you're going to nitpick his performance today, you're going to say, okay, he tripped over his own 2 feet and missed a throw on one play. He short-armed another play, but that's 2 passes right there. The only concern I have on Patrick Mahomes coming out of this game, because I thought he played phenomenal, and I thought that he was the reason why the Chiefs won this game. I mean, because he extended how many plays with his legs. He scrambled like he always scrambles. He outran Chase Young to the edge. He has that old man speed that we just see on a consistent basis, where somehow he runs like he's a grandfather, but he's a really, really fast grandfather like that. Like it's like if you ever done a 5K and you get passed by the 80-year-old guy power walking, like that's Patrick Mahomes when he runs, just doing that power walk, like shake as he goes, but he's just fast as hell when he does it somehow. But my only concern I have with Patrick Mahomes, and it's not even necessarily his fault, he's a couple of years removed from having Tyreek Hill, and now he has Xavier Worthy. And he's had a lot slower wide receivers over the last couple of years. And I think that you saw a couple of times tonight, and this is me nitpicking, but like on that crossing route where he threw behind Xavier Worthy and he missed that throw to Xavier Worthy on the crossing route, and he was behind him because Xavier Worthy got across the field faster than he expected. And then even on that deep shot where the PI was called, Mahomes gave it everything he had and overthrew Worthy on that play. And so I do think that there is an adjustment that Mahomes is going to have to make when he's throwing to Juju Smith-Schuster and Travis Kelce, who are at a totally lower gear. And then when he's going to have to the mathematics in his head have to switch when he goes to Xavier Worthy, because he's throwing to a Ferrari instead of a Ford Bronco.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely something to that. Like the way that this offense has evolved over the last couple of seasons, or a couple years ago, it was just this efficient juggernaut where it was like they might still drop 30 on you, but they're gonna do it with 12 play drives instead of 4 play drives, and to the absolute slog that it was last season throughout the entirety of the regular season. I think there's absolutely something to that. And I think that'll get better as the season goes on. Like him and Xavier Worthy just have to get on the same page, and they have to find that chemistry. And I am confident that they will be able to develop that play, particularly because not because it was scoring play, but because it actually showed some creativity in the red zone. And despite all of these yards that they put up, and it was really overall, Rocky, even though it's a 26-13 win, it's a dominating win by the Kansas City Chiefs. Like the Saints were never in this game. The Saints never had control of this game. Like the Chiefs were in total control of this thing basically all the way through. And if it wasn't for the red zone issues, once again, we're talking about like a 35-point win by the Kansas City Chiefs. And we're talking about a monster blow up performance from them. And the Worthy touchdown was encouraging because that's some creativity in the red zone that I don't think Andy Reid has shown a lot of. And I do think there's some validity to Andy Reid holding things back in the regular season and not wanting to, dust off his really good game plans early in the year. And he knows how talented they are. And so they can just kind of work their way through the early part of the season, get to the bye week, get out post bye week, and then you're off and running. And then you're, making your playoff push, and Andy's really dusting off the good stuff. Like it felt like tonight Andy Reid did pull out the good stuff for this game. And maybe it was because he knew with all the injuries and Rashee Rice and everything, like they needed this boost before the bye to show like, okay, we can go out there and still do this with the guys that we have. So I think there's absolutely something to that. But the red zone issues go back several years now, Rocky. It's not just a last year thing. It's not just a this year thing. This has been an issue with the Chiefs for the last several seasons. And sometimes it's because Andy gets too cute in the red zone instead of doing the simple thing. Like on that drive that ends in the Juju Smith-Schuster, Colin Saunders interception, like they were running all over the Saints on that drive. They were at the goal line. Like, why can't we just get another Kareem Hunt touchdown? Like, I would have been totally fine with that. And it just felt like a moment of overthinking a little bit by Andy Reid. But I still believe this was also Andy's best performance of the season. And this offense desperately needed this kind of game because I do think like losing Isaiah Pacheco, losing Hollywood Brown, losing Rashee Rice, like, and Patrick Mahomes is playing far from the best football of his career. Like, that can do a lot to your confidence. And now they're probably flying high heading into a bye week because Andy Reid was like, no, we got this. We can still win with the guys that we have, and we believe in all of you, and we have enough playmakers to get this thing done, even though we've already lost 3 potential star players for significant periods of the season, if not the entirety of the season. And that's what happens when you're one of the best offensive minds in NFL history. If you're Andy Reid, like you got to go out there and maximize the players that you have, because we see the best offensive coaches do that across the league on a weekly basis. And I don't feel like Andy Reid had really done that so far this season. So this was encouraging, not just for the Chiefs skill position group, but for Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes moving forward. This is the kind of performance that you build on and find a way to set this thing in motion so you can really keep powering through the rest of the regular season.
Yeah, I do think there is an aspect of Andy getting too cute in the red zone that's hurt him. And you could argue he got a little cute in the red zone, tonight too, especially on the interception play. It wasn't quite Pete Carroll not giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch on the goal line and the Super Bowl level of getting too cute, but it was a little cute. It was like, okay, if I see the cuteness level walking down the road, I'll say, all right, that's a 7. That's a 7 on the cuteness level, And so but I also think that some of the Chiefs short yardage running and red zone running issues they've had in recent years, kind of going back to Isaiah Pacheco, has to do with his lack of patience. I think you saw Kareem Hunt was a lot more patient, especially on the goal line and in short yardage today than we've seen out of Isaiah Pacheco. So even if Pacheco comes back and he's the lead back, I think you might see Kareem Hunt as the short yardage back. And that might be a perfect role for him in this Chiefs offense, like as a third down / short yardage back, playing pass protection and then picking up that 1 yard that you need. Andy was in his bag tonight, I think. And I think we may see Andy in his bag more as the year goes on if he has to. I think sometimes we've seen that before where if Andy knows that it's a must-win game, that he wants to go into the bye week on a victory and stay undefeated, or he wants to come out of the bye week with a victory, he's going to go into his bag a little bit more as he has to, right? You might see it more in the second half than in the first half. He might try to come out and play vanilla in the first half, but if they're down 7 coming out of halftime, then he's going to go into his bag and pull a few plays out and use them as needed, right? Like he's not going to pull out everything, but he's going to pull out enough, right, to win the game. So I think we also might see a lot more close games down the line. But if the Chiefs but to your point also, the Chiefs played 80 plays on offense today. That's an insane amount of plays on offense to run 80 plays on offense. Like they should have scored 35 points or 40 points when you're running 80 plays on offense, and that's more than double what the other team is running. You're more than doubling their total yards and their time of possession and their first downs. Then you should be scoring more points than you did tonight.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think part of that is the Chiefs defense just continuing to prove that it is absolutely one of the best units in all of the NFL. Like, yeah, maybe this Chiefs defense has taken a step back from last year's historic defense by Brian Cook was the Rashid Shaheed big plays. Like, And Shaheed, I think, finishes with 86 yards and winds up having a pretty big game, including a long touchdown catch where he just absolutely roasted Brian Cook deep. But overall, Rocky and Chris Jones, despite the Chiefs' defensive line getting a lot of pressure on Derek Carr, they didn't get their first sack of the game until midway through the second half. And Chris Jones really kind of took things over down the stretch where he had kind of a quiet night in the first half. We didn't hear Chris Jones popping up a lot, but the Chiefs were getting a lot of pressure from other places. Like George Karlaftis had a nice game. Tershawn Wharton had a nice game. He gets a sack on Derek Carr. And the secondary, I think, continues somehow, Rocky, despite the fact that, they were the best secondary in the NFL last season. They had 2 All-Pros, even though L'Jarius Sneed didn't get voted one. And now Trent McDuffie this season is proving that he is not only one of the absolute best cornerbacks in football, but I think that he is one of the most versatile players on the defensive side in all of the NFL. And he is a lockdown corner. Like Trent McDuffie is an absolute bona fide superstar for this defense. But Jalen Watson needs to start getting some credit. Like Jalen Watson has been really, really good. And Steve Spagnuolo gets the most out of his cornerbacks and the most out of the players in his secondary. But this Chiefs defense is amazing. And despite the fact that they gave up a couple of big plays tonight, part of the reason this was such an easy win and the easiest win of the year for this team, and it felt like they were cruising down the stretch, is because the Saints could not get anything going against this Chiefs defense. Like Rocky, they absolutely shut down Chris Olave. Chris Olave is a very talented wide receiver. And I like Shaheed too, and his speed scared me coming into the game. But I was a little bit more worried about Olave coming into this one, just because I think Olave's skill set is something that could give the Chiefs some problems. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs are a very physical defense, and I don't think the Saints are a very physical offense. And I think that played right into what Steve Spagnuolo did, and the Chiefs defense was tremendous again.
I mean, the Chiefs defense was the reason why the Chiefs won this game and why they were able to run 80 plays on offense. I mean, like when you look at the Chiefs run defense numbers, they are so skewed by Lamar Jackson, like bailing on a passing play and scrambling out of the pocket and getting 126 yards rushing in week 1. You take if you say rushing yards allowed to running backs by the Chiefs this year, they're averaging like 46 yards a game rushing. They held Alvin Kamara, the guy who leads the league in yards from scrimmage per game so far this year, to 26 yards on 11 carries. 26. They held Alvin Kamara to 26 yards on 11 carries, and it shouldn't shock us because they shut down J.K. Dobbins. They shut down B.J. Robinson. They shut down, weak-ass Derrick Henry as well.
Derrick Henry's been cooking lately, too, and the Chiefs absolutely.
That's because people don't know how to tackle in the NFL, Steven. I'll die on this hill over and over again. But this might be the best run defense in the NFL. And Spagnuolo talked about it this week, that the key to the Chiefs run defense is controlled aggression by the linebackers. And you saw that with Nick Bolton today, right? Like Nick Bolton finished with 11 tackles and he was all over Alvin Kamara in the run game today. And like even on that screen pass where he was supposed to blitz, but he diagnosed it, cut over behind the line, and then blew up the screen pass with Alvin Kamara. That when a lot of times when we talk about like players playing downhill, it's about them just going straight off the snap. But with Nick Bolton, he's able to diagnose and then get downhill so well that is the key to the Chiefs run defense is Nick Bolton, and then also players like, with the exception of the very first run in the game, just that backside integrity, that not allowing Kamara to cut back like he did on that first run. But this run defense is amazing. And then you talk about Chris Jones getting off to a little bit of a slow start, and he did, but that's because they were double and triple teaming him every single play. And he was in the second half, he was just like, screw it, I'm gonna start blowing up these double and triple teams. On that sack that Tershawn Wharton had, they literally had Chris Jones like picked up off the ground and were like pulling him apart, like he was being pulled apart by 2 Roman war horses, right? Like one guy had him by the helmet and they were pulling on him, and he was just like sideways off in the air. And the refs are just like, oh well, we'll just let it go because this game's taking a while. We want to go home. But yeah, I mean, Chris Jones was battling in there, and I think eventually he was. You can only stop Chris Jones for so long because he's such a force. You're not going to shut him out the entire game. And then you said it with the secondary. Spagnuolo's going to get the most out of his guys. Your boy Chamari Connor came up with a couple really big plays today, and when I saw him, I said, "Whoa, that's Steve's boy right there. He's
Love him.
he's showing out." That open field tackle he had in the first half saved a first down, and I mean, and that's why you know that Steve Spagnuolo loves Chamari Connor. He always speaks so highly of Chamari Connor because Chamari Connor has that mindset, that aggressive, like brawler mindset. Like Steve Spagnuolo is unique as a defensive coordinator because he wants he wants brawlers at cornerback. He doesn't want these guys who are just kind of like technician, like, oh, we're all finesse. He wants guys that are going to get in there, jam you, hit you. I'll take some hands to the face like we got with Jerry Sneed last year.
Yeah.
But I want a guy who's gonna make lives uncomfortable for the wide receivers and beat them up a little bit.
Yeah. Absolutely everyone in the Chiefs secondary is willing to go out there and lay you out. Like everyone in that secondary is willing to go lay a hit. And that's why they are so physical. And that's why I thought this was a good matchup for them overall, because I just don't look at the Saints skill position players and think like they're physical. Like they don't have guys that can go out there and just overpower you and go up and get the football and overpower your cornerbacks. Like that's just not their kind of offense. But the most impressive part of this Chiefs defense so far is their run defense. Like I did not expect this. I did not like. I know they're linebacker. They got a good crew of linebackers around the line of scrimmage who can come up and play in the box. And Nick Bolton, by the way, after having a rough start to the season, has been absolutely lights out the last few games. He has been amazing for the Kansas City Chiefs. Leo Chanel continues to make plays. Like Drew Tranquil still struggling a little bit. Like to see Drew get that figured out and get going. Maybe he needs to get to the bye and get some things figured out. But I can't believe the Saints didn't try to exploit Alvin Kamara in matchups against the Chiefs linebackers, because I think that is still the weakest part of this defense. But you can't throw downfield on them. You can't run on them. And it's like, so if all you got is trying to match up with the linebackers, then your defense is pretty good. So very happy with the Chiefs defense. Very happy with the 5-0 start for the Kansas City Chiefs as they head into a bye week before a huge matchup against the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday, October 20th. But Rocky, we've been rambling for almost 50 minutes. So let's get to a few comments before we get out of here. Another Chiefs win, feeling good. Offense is back, baby. Feeling good about the Kansas City Chiefs for the first time in a couple of weeks, despite the fact they have yet to lose a game. So this was about as easy as it's going to be for them, I would have to imagine, moving forward. Hopefully they get more easy wins, because I just want to have some of these post games where we're not stressing until the very last minute, Rocky. But this is from our guy Brandon. Yeah, the run game looks better with Hunt. It will be nice when Pacheco gets back. Yeah, I mean, that's what we talked about, Rocky. I think that having both of them, and if Kareem Hunt keeps us up, like having him and Pacheco, maybe, Pacheco's not going to be the workhorse that we all thought that he was going to be coming into the season. But honestly, like, outside of fantasy football, for real life football and getting wins, I think that's a good thing for the Kansas City Chiefs, because the running back room looked like a real weakness out after Isaiah Pacheco coming out of training camp. And now all of a sudden, once they get him back, Kareem Hunt keeps playing like this. It looks like it's one of the offensive strengths of this team. And it looks like it's something they can keep leaning into.
Yeah, I mean, you always wanted Carson Steele to be your third string, fourth string running back on this team who's a candidate to get put down to the practice squad. Like that was like, as much as you love Carson Steele, you didn't want him being your starting running back in the NFL right now. Like that's just not the role that you wanted for him. I've talked a lot about Kareem Hunt tonight. I'm a big fan of his running style. I'm a big fan of him. I think that the Chiefs offense is better with him at running back than without. So
from our guy Bullseye, what a game, what a win. Would love to see better red zone TD conversions, but still dominant performance. Yeah, it feels like griping, feels like being nitpicky after a big win like that. Like it was a dominating performance from the Kansas City Chiefs. And yes, you want to see them score touchdowns, but if they have to settle for field goals and it means they're not turning the football over and they're playing dominant defense, well, can't really complain that much, Rocky. So I think we're just spoiled, and we're used to just explosive offense and dominating defense and winning Super Bowls. So we got to get over all of that and settle in for this. But final thing from our guy Elliot, what about that Jody Fortson sighting? I wanted to mention this before we got out of here. Jody Fortson came back. The Chiefs used 14 personnel tonight, which was apparently only the second time a team in the NFL has done that this season. Jody Fortson had a nice catch. It was very nice to see Jody Fortson back in the mix. Apparently, that's all this offense needed. They just needed to bring back all the guys that they've loved from over the last couple of years. Jody Fortson, Kareem Hunt, Juju Smith-Schuster, and just run this thing back like it was 2018 again or 2021. And it was all the Chiefs needed to do to figure this thing out.
Just wait until they trade a second-round pick for Tyreek Hill to bring him back in, and then we'll really run it back. Getting the band back together, baby. I mean, if the guys you have are going to get injured, you might as well go with guys who you trust.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I mentioned earlier, like we saw the Patriots do that for a long time, and the Chiefs are just doing that now. They trust the system. As long as you know the system, and they trust the quarterback, as long as you know those two things and you can be in the right spot at the right time, Andy Reid's going to try to find a way to make you produce. And he has proven that he can do that over and over again. So again, Kansas City Chiefs improved to 5-0 on the season. They head into a bye week before a massive Super Bowl matchup against the San Francisco 49ers. We'll have all that covered. We'll still have plenty of shows this week as the Chiefs head into their bye week here at Foolish Club Media. So make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. Head over to our YouTube page if you haven't yet. Please follow us there at Foolish Club Media. You can follow Rocky on Twitter at Rocky Magaña. I'm Steven Serda. That's where you can find me. We will be back tomorrow at noon with the next edition of the Daily Fix with Ron the Show Huey. We'll talk to you then.